a pledge of unity and of dedication to remaking the world. Brazil, Russia, India and China, the BRICS founders, holding hands in affirmation with newest member, South Africa. Every country except Russia represented by its top leaders. But President Vladimir Putin made sure he was very much a part of the session, sending a video message.
The irreversible, objective process of de-dollarization of the members of BRICS economic ties is gaining momentum, and efforts are being made to develop effective mechanisms for mutual settlements and monetary control. As a result, the share of the dollar in export-import transactions within the BRICS is declining. Last year, it amounted to 28.7%.
BRICS was founded in 2009 by Brazil, Russia, India and China, with South Africa admitted in 2010. The countries represent 40% of the world's population, 20% of the world's GDP, and 3 of the top 10 economies. BRICS has used this economic might to informally help poorer countries. It set up the new development bank as a joint international lending institution in the form of the IMF, and is also discussing a proposal for a common currency and non-dollar-based international payment system. The idea has struck a chord across the world, with 40 countries having now applied to join. Egypt and Ethiopia are 2 of 6 newly announced members, as Africa, with some of the world's poorest countries, remains a main focus for the group.
The new wave of protectionism and subsequent impact of unilateral measures that are incompatible with WTO rules undermine the global economic growth and development. We therefore need to reaffirm our position that economic growth must be underpinned by transparency, by inclusiveness. It must be compatible with a multilateral trading system that supports a developmental agenda.
Concluding the Johannesburg summit, President Ramaphosa announced the bloc will issue formal invitations to Egypt, Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Argentina and Iran. US and Western officials say they see no reason that BRICS should be seen as a challenge to the current international economic system. But analysts say BRICS expansion means it should be seen as an alternative or even successor to the current global geopolitical order.
Globalization issue is full of injustice and dominated by especially Western countries, and especially by the IMF, World Bank and other Western institutions, and they are being used as twisting arms of other countries through financial support and also other supporters. BRICS has become an alternative for this.
It's this balance between prosperity and equality that is winning hearts and minds for BRICS across the world's economies. Shoaib Hasan, Money Talks.
To understand what the BRICS expansion could mean, Patrick Bond joined us earlier from Johannesburg. He's a professor of sociology and a political economist at the University of Johannesburg.
It's a very confusing situation because 23 were formal candidates. 2 of the 6 that were chosen are already in the process through the BRICS New Development Bank as members, those being Egypt and the United Arab Emirates. But the rest of the logic we're all confounded by. In fact, there may be as many as 44 countries, we hope Turkey among them, that could be potentially included. But the main problem is that the 6 chosen are quite unstable. So in Ethiopia, there's a civil war. Argentina seems to be moving very far to the right. There may even be a Bolsonaro-type candidate winning the October presidential election. And then in the Middle East, the 3 countries, UAE and Saudi Arabia, plus Iran, had been at loggerheads and a proxy war in Yemen until China had made some peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran. But the crucial thing is whether we are going to see anything in these particular members that drives forward a broader agenda of global reform, especially around weakening the power of the US dollar and the Federal Reserve, which is, I think, more generally seen to be in need of a major overhaul, because the Fed has really abused that power of printing money and then raising interest rates and financially deregulating. So we still remain to be seen what's going to happen with that agenda. But India and China have had these border conflicts in the Himalaya mountains, and scores of troops have died for the past 6 or 7 years, and that doesn't seem to be anywhere near resolution. And in addition, there's a difference of opinion in the existing 5 BRICS over how to treat Russia's invasion of Ukraine, because the Brazilians have been most forthright, not only under Bolsonaro, but under Lula since early January, in really calling for the withdrawal of troops and the immediate ceasefire. And maybe this turmoil with the Wagner group maybe being beheaded may change the balance of forces. But it is a desperate time, as President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa pointed out, a desperate time to really get some sort of peace discussions. And the new BRICS will probably balance out, because Saudi Arabia has been trying to help Ukraine to put together a coalition of peace supporters. But on the other hand, Iran has been supplying many of those very lethal drones. So we're going to see still some uncertainty on the big geopolitical questions of the day.
To break this all down is Solly Moeng, a political commentator speaking to us from La Gruyere in Switzerland.
I think that BRICS is inevitable. It's happening. It's going to grow. The only thing is that if you look at many of the countries involved in it, they don't even know what the word, the expression human rights mean, and that is the scary part. So if people of Africa were to be in trouble because of any of their leaders, it's not to Russia or to China that they can run to, because they're not going to get help from there. These guys have already said, we're interested in you guys, and they're talking about the African leaders, and we're not going to interfere in your internal affairs. Even if you kill your people, it's not our business, and that's a big problem. They are not a popular government in South Africa. The people of South Africa are not behind the ANC today as they were when Mandela and in the early years. So it's not a popular government in South Africa, the ANC, and they're very scared they might lose elections next year. So anyway, in any case, the ANC is the governing party, or I like to call it the misgoverning party in South Africa, because it's led South Africa into BRICS. I think BRICS is a reality. My only caution would be that we shouldn't go into these formations with emotions. We mustn't look for love in the wrong places. We must also not do it to show the middle finger to the West. We still have a lot of interest with America, with Europe, with other parties. I think we need to go into for a foreign policy that is balanced. We of course want to have relationships with all these countries that are involved with BRICS, including the new ones that have just been invited in there. But I think we must not lose identity. I like that Mandela used to say that South Africa's foreign policy must always be underpinned by a consideration to human rights. And I'm fearful that with Saudi Arabia, I mean, look at the Khashoggi story, look at Iran kills women who don't do what they're supposed to do, as prescribed by the religious leaders there. None of the countries, China, Russia, Vladimir Putin kills, imprisons, exiles anybody who disagrees with him. China is not known for human rights. I'm just worried that if we go in there without a clear, strong identity about what is acceptable and what is not acceptable and what we're looking for, we're going to get lost. And I see a lot of people are celebrating this because they think it's going to be economically beneficial for South Africa. Yes, in some way it's going to be, but it mustn't just be based on the possibility of all the loans that must be repaid in the future that we're going to get or continue getting from the BRICS Bank. So I think that it's not very clear that people are going into this formation with the right intentions or with clarity in mind.